You mentioned kind of the fervor of the synthetics community with these like paydays, and that like immediately made me think of the Chainlink community, which also is super, enthusiastic is I guess a way to say it. And so just wanted to get your thoughts as an investor, like why do you think this happens, that there's so many people kind of incentivized to like pump or shill Link?
I think the funniest part about the Chainlink community is that, we talk to Sergey on a fairly regular basis, and he like does it. He's a meme, and it's like, that's perfect. Just like keep not understanding, like it just generates a lot of excitement. I think that there's a few different things that went into the creation of the Link brains. And I think the first is a large total addressable market. Like if you think about where value might start to accrue in a world where smart contracts are relatively commonplace, the natural choke point is when you're feeding in data to that blockchain. There's a set of people who have access to the data. They can, they have some pricing power, over the kind of the demand side of the smart contract requesters. So, you can very rationally reason through a world where Chainlink is accruing, some fraction of the value that Ethereum is accruing. I think that's the first, and most important thing. Second, Sergey and the team are just incredible entrepreneurs. All they do is focus on this one problem. They do it extremely well. They're on point with marketing, integrations, pushing the limits of really what you can do on an Oracle service and redefining what an Oracle service is. That's kind of, obviously the second part. And the third part is that, I think the best communities start very small. Chainlink, when it was, in its infancy in late 2017 when we found it, was predominantly found on Reddit and 4chan communities. Not a lot of people knew about it. And even when people tried to promote it and get it out to a larger community, the people in Reddit and 4chan would literally kind of vote it down or report it so that other people really couldn't know about Chainlink. And that preserved the smallness of the community for quite some time. And that smallness bred fervor, and that fervor bred excitement. And once the team started putting the Oracle solution on mainnet and delivering on some of their more loftier expectations, that excitement just exploded. But it really all starts with smallness in these communities and building, identity and something that is able to be, memes. Like the Oracle problem is 3 words, and pretty much everybody understands what that is, and you can extrapolate what type of value you might capture and what, the token might do. So it's very simple. That's one of the things that we counsel, almost every projects which we invest in, is that you have to have something that is short, it's punchy, it's descriptive, it's prescriptive to people. And I think that, that's something that Chainlink did very unintentionally well. First, I think it was 6 or 9 months, there was no communication from Chainlink to the outside world. It was just like, we're building, we're not going to update you on anything that's not technical related, like, sorry. And so just as people read the Bitcoin white paper and didn't really have Satoshi to ask questions to, they made something of it on their own, and they kind of like made it their own ideology. That very much happened with Chainlink as well.
The only thing I'd add is just thinking about the timelines here, I think is really interesting because Chainlink launched in September of 2017. It had a run up from about 9 or 11 cents to $1.40. And then it dropped down to maybe 18 or 17 cents. And a major thing that we have noticed within the community, because we've been a part of it the entire time, is this true sense of being an underdog. And I think the market never fully recognized Chainlink. It still doesn't. I still think that it's confused about what the Oracle problem is and how Chainlink can really solve it. And I think that underdog story pervades this cohesive community at the base layer, because everybody remembers what it was like when we were all in the Slack together talking and thinking about what Chainlink could be potentially as the price was dropping 90%. And one of the things that got us really excited about synthetics is I think there's a lot of congruency between the Chainlink story and the synthetics story as well. They started off even, they pivoted, also saw a 90% decline in token price, and have come through in amazing fashion against all odds. And I mean, what stories, and I can't think of any in the blockchain space where you have a successful pivot. So the people that were on that journey from day one, and the team definitely being a couple of them, it just builds this cohesive nature that I think is really hard to disrupt and replace. And that, I think, is ultimately what helps these distributed networks win.
Yeah, I love to have this background of the early Link Marine community. I didn't know that. It's so interesting. So, okay, so you mentioned how they both had, or at least Link had, this kind of underdog mentality. But I mean, the token is up. It's more than doubled in price in the past year. Synthetics is up even more. So, I mean, to you, is it still undervalued? And of course, I mean, you'll say yes, but if you can kind of walk me through your reasoning why it's still a good investment after this huge rally these two tokens have had.
Caveat with whatever Michael's about to say, this is not financial advice.
Well, I think we don't really think about it in terms of what the price is. That's not something that we evaluate. We evaluate these projects on a non-price, non-financial specific basis, because what we're looking for is a full realization of the product or the capability that was promoted in the white paper, or the original thesis, or the end state of the development of these projects. And I would say there's basically only one asset in this space that has maybe realized its full vision, which is Bitcoin. Even Ethereum is still under construction. Chainlink is absolutely still there as well. And yes, it may have been the most successful blockchain network in the past year, but it still feels like we're fighting an underdog story. And it still feels like there's so much further to go. And obviously synthetics is there as well. And so we think about it, and we, as investors, we will eventually have to return capital to our LPs, but we haven't sold a single asset, and we won't for a while, I believe. We want to see these things through, whether the price is up, down, or sideways. And I think that's generally how we view investing in the space. And while others may be looking for a quick flip, we are long-term venture-style investment holders of assets. And I think that could be a differentiation when you're talking about certain investors who aren't going to have the same perspective. And so we really want to partner with the core teams that are building these protocols and see it through.
Okay. Vance, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, so Chainlink right now is in like V05. Like it's not even, we're not even at like one. So right now what's happening with Chainlink is that they're trying to bootstrap the marketplace. They're getting a lot of node operators that can provide really high quality price data, and they're vetting all of these providers, and they're making sure that they have strong uptime and strong DevOps, and when price feeds go down at 2 in the morning, like there's somebody on PagerDuty to figure it out. And on the other side, they're building out all the integrations. So, they're powering probably more than 60 or 70% of DeFi at this point. And that's, kind of the other side of the equation. Eventually what Chainlink is going to do is they're going to open up the node provider ecosystem to anybody that has these price reference feeds or any other data that's interesting, whether it be stocks or Forex or commodities or sports data or weather data or whatever. And they'll open that entirely up. They'll start kind of their staking program, where people are earning Link programmatically based on any of the requests that come through. And really that'll be phase 1 of this network. And I think getting to that phase is like the first point at which we would say, okay, this is like where things are starting to solidify in terms of full vision. So that's, I think, definitely one point. But also generally we see like price feeds is the least interesting part of oracles. Like explaining the definition of what oracles do to do off-chain computation, to attest certain things without revealing them, to act as a de facto scaling solution. The boundaries between what smart contracts are and what oracles are really going to start to blur over the next kind of 3 to 6 months. So I think that for us, we have a vision of what Chainlink will become, and we're tracking alongside of that. So, we're very happy with how fast the team is moving. And, as long as Chainlink has that underdog mentality, we think that it's going to be extremely successful. It's, the most valuable ERC20, I think, and it's never taken on real VC funding. And I think that point escapes a lot of people. And, I think Ethereum has an obsession with blessing certain projects, whether it be Maker or whether it be Compound. And then if you don't get the blessing, you're kind of like, out in the cold. But, this is a point to the contrary, which says that, the silent majority of people are really interested in stuff like this. And even if you don't have the kind of the buy-in of a lot of the Ethereum thought leaders, you can really, make a go of building a successful technology product.
So you really think Link doesn't have the blessing of kind of Ethereum, or, however?
I mean, there was, a year and a half where Chainlink was really derided as an Oracle solution. And this was when kind of Maker's Oracle solution was more prominent. But, I think that having that blessing is less important than it used to be, which is good because it represents not only kind of the maturing of the ecosystem into something less tribal, but also the increasing decentralization of the Ethereum community, where there's not kind of a few arbiters of what is good or what is bad. And I think that's just great for the entire space.
Definitely agree.